Hello, this is a guide for the Mercenary Apollo. I'll be going over how the Mercenary works, how to build them, and most importantly how to use them. Apollo is a legend rarity warrior, with a specific classification of her being a slayer. Apollo has a front attack type with her AoE tiles being a 3x3 box. I'll now talk about her skills at max rank. Her first skill is named Fallen Sun. This skill allows Apollo to attack 3 times instead of once on her turn. Additionally, on each hit, Apollo applies heal reduction. Heal reduction is a debuff that ignores all immunities, such as debuff immunity, debuff reflection, and flame guard, and its effect is that it reduces the amount of healing the enemy receives. If the final heal amount is negative, healing is instead converted to HP reduction damage. Here are a few examples to help you better understand how heal reduction works, but before I show them, I should first show the equation of how healing is calculated. And just to clarify, in this equation, if the total healing number is positive, the target would heal. If the total healing number is negative, the target would suffer HP reduction damage. Now here are the examples. In this first example, my Alec has a minus 50% heal reduction and receives a 1000 HP heal. Therefore, the math works out like this. Put the 1000 HP in the amount healed, then put the minus 50% heal reduction in the heal reduction portion, and thus we get our answer of 500. Since the answer is positive, Alec would heal 500 HP. In the second example, my Alec has a minus 100% heal reduction. Again, let's use the equation. Plugging 1000 HP in the amount healed, and then the minus 100% in the heal reduction portion, we get our answer of 0. Therefore, Alec would heal 0 HP, or nothing at all. In this last example, my Alec has a minus 150% heal reduction. Using the equation, we would get our answer of minus 500. And since the answer is negative, Alec would suffer 500 HP reduction damage, which if you didn't know, appears as a violet-blue number in battle. Back to Apollo, she applies a minus 55% heal reduction on each of her hits that stack. And since she attacks 3 times, the amount of HP reduction amount acts like this. On her first hit, the enemy receives a minus 55% heal reduction, which simply reduces the amount of healing the enemy receives. On the second hit, the enemy receives another minus 55% heal reduction, which totals to a minus 110% heal reduction. This causes the enemy to heal nothing at all, in addition to receiving a minor amount of HP reduction damage. On the third hit, the enemy receives another minus 55% heal reduction, which totals to a minus 165% heal reduction. This causes the enemy to again heal nothing at all, in addition to receiving a moderate amount of HP reduction damage. One more thing, I promise this is the last one, but Apollo's heal reduction only lasts one turn. Therefore, her heal reduction can only affect healing skills that activate during her turn, such as Lane's incoming heal, Lucius's masochism, and Cecile's incoming damage heal. Or, it can also affect HP regeneration skills, but only for one turn, which results in one instance of HP reduction damage. Common sources of HP regeneration include Sarah's HP regen, or Ida's regeneration barrier bestowal. In summary, Apollo's first skill allows her to attack 3 times, with each attack applying a stacking HP reduction that lasts for one turn. Her second skill is named Sunspot Explosion. This skill deals an instance of direct damage that scales off of Apollo's attack and penetration. Also, this direct damage is doubled against defenders. Additionally, if Apollo scores a kill during her turn, she'll apply a blind to all enemies, which reduces their AoE tiles to 1, as well as changing their attack type to front. The first thing that should be noted is that the blind only lasts a very short 3 turns. But more importantly, the blind is an attack interference type debuff, which can be ignored and avoided incredibly easily. I'll elaborate more on Apollo's blind debuff in the pros and cons section. The second thing that should be noted is that this additional damage will activate 3 times due to Apollo's first skill allowing to attack 3 times in one turn. The last thing that should be noted is that this additional damage has a deceptively low scaling. This is mainly due to the fact that it scales off of penetration. The maximum amount of penetration you could get is roughly 20%, so therefore, assuming you could actually have a 20% penetration on Apollo, the math works out to have an actual scaling of 60% instead of 300%. In my opinion, this isn't too big of a deal because of Apollo's high base attack, but it's important to keep in mind as getting high penetration is expensive to do. Again, I'll come back to this problem in the pros and cons section. Her third skill is named Super Burn. This skill applies a defense ignoring burn dot to the enemy that scales off Apollo's attack. Additionally, this skill will boost incoming damage to enemies afflicted by this dot. In my opinion, this skill is quite irrelevant and I could really only see its use in PvE content. This is because dot damage is very underwhelming and too slow to actually make an impact. Especially since the direct damage Apollo deals does not increase from the incoming damage boost. This is just a property of direct damage. Thus, in a PvP context, this skill is just a dot skill that isn't too relevant to her main gameplay. Her fourth skill is named Debuff Immunity. This skill makes Apollo immune to debuffs such as blinds, stuns, charms, burns, and etc. For her skill level, I'll quickly run down the most important ones. Her plus 5 compared to her plus 0 is a large step up to her direct damage, allowing her to more reliably kill enemies. Plus 11 is another big power spike for her, as this allows Apollo to deal HP reduction damage if the enemy has healing. Plus 14 is by far Apollo's best power spike due to increasing her AoE tiles to a 3x3. And finally, plus 15 is another massive power spike for Apollo, as she can prevent healing in 2 hits compared to plus 11, requiring 3 hits to block healing. In addition, this power spike increases the HP reduction damage she deals. In my opinion, the easiest skill spike you can get on Apollo is her plus 11 due to the availability of books, fake gifts, and soul gear. Before her to be viable in Arena, she needs to be at minimum plus 14, as the AoE increase literally doubles the amount of targets she can hit. Her plus 15 is also great as it makes her HP reduction actually noticeable. For runes, the optimal setup would be to run 2 attack percent runes, both with a subset of flat attack. Additionally, both runes should be at minimum 6-star runes with an epic plus rarity, as well as their stats being equal to or higher than the ones presented on screen. For a mythic rune, the optimal setup would be to run 2 penetration main stats with a subset of attack percent. It's very important that the main stats of the mythic rune are both penetration, because that's Apollo's main scaling. However, for a subset, don't worry if it's not attack percent, it's not make or break. For Insignia of Creed, I wouldn't recommend getting them as it's quite expensive, 900 diamonds per slot or 1 legend book per slot, and insignias aren't necessary for her to perform well. However, if you do have the diamonds or books to burn, then her insignia should be the following: Goddess's Spear, Raging Storm, Piercing, Giant Strength, and Reaper's Scythe. For soul gear, I would recommend leveling them all up to be level 10 just for that one additional skill level. I also recommend upgrading her weapon and amulet to level 25 for that additional attack boost. And lastly, if you do upgrade her amulet to be level 25, I would highly recommend refining her amulet stats to be double attack percent. For rank boosting Apollo, I would recommend it as it gives her a nice attack boost as well as being quite cheap to do. Apollo's main purpose is to hit groups with enemies with her large AoE, with her central ability in dealing HP reduction damage to enemies that have healing. Overall, the best team to put her in is a warrior team since they could provide many protective buffs to a defensive lacking Apollo. Now for pros and cons. For pros, Apollo has excellent tiles for a warrior. Even though she is a front attacking mercenary, and thus making less use of these back 3 tiles, a 3x3 AoE on any warrior is still incredible nonetheless. Additionally, Apollo counters HP restrained enemies very well, since with her triple attack, she can do 6 instances of direct damage, 3 from her own damage skill, and 3 from her penetration rune. With this many instances of direct damage, it can easily kill enemies that rely on HP restraint, such as Enma, Wester, and Neptune. Following up on the talk of damage, Apollo deals a solid amount of direct damage, which is more than enough to kill any squishy in the game, as well as most tanks in the game. Furthermore, Apollo can deal instances of HP reduction damage, which is the best damage type in the game due to its ability to pierce everything except for immortality and fixed HP. And lastly, Apollo is debuff immune, which for a warrior is huge. The most threatening debuff to a warrior team is Indra's Burn, so being able to ignore that annoying CC is an amazing blessing. However, some cons are that Apollo's heal reduction is only good against very high HP regeneration, and not really effective against other sources of healing. This is because Apollo only applies her negative 165% heal reduction on the final hit of her triple attack, and thus not proccing the enemy's incoming healing. Additionally, due to the fact that her heal reduction only lasts one turn, it cannot punish HP regeneration enemies that heal in small amounts over time, such as Sarah or Lane. In summary, for Apollo's heal reduction to work, it requires a very specific condition of the enemy having high HP regen. But even if the enemy has high HP regen, due to Apollo's HP reduction damage only lasting one turn, this makes it so that it will only deal a single instance of HP reduction damage. Therefore, if the enemy has an immortality buff, they would still survive on 1 HP. Another con of Apollo is their blind CC has little to no impact on the battlefield. This is because their blind is an attack interference skill type, which can be easily ignored by mage teams who are pretty much all debuff immune, as well as being easily ignored by warrior teams due to the amount of supporters that go first, and those supporters often having debuff immunity as well. Honestly, her blind CC is so useless it can be removed and it would not make a difference on the battlefield. Speaking of useless, her burn dot can also be removed. Dot damage in Brave 9 is already the worst form of damage output in the game due to its nature of being too slow to kill enemies, but it's made even worse for Apollo as it only ignores defense. If the enemy has 99.9% barrier or guard, her dot won't do anything. It's embarrassing that Apollo, a legendary mercenary based off of the fucking sun, and in lore is worshipped as a sun god, has a worse burn dot than Agni, a 5-star mercenary who just uses a fire blade. Yes, you heard that right. Apollo, the sun god, has a worse burn dot than a 5-star mercenary. like bro. Anyways, the last con on Apollo is that she's incredibly expensive to build. Not only it is recommended for her to be skill level plus 15, she also needs a high attack stat as well as a high penetration stat to enable her to consistently deal a solid amount of direct damage. This much investment into one mercenary is honestly not worth it, especially when other warriors can substitute for Apollo's niche. For some synergies, Apollo's top synergy is Mary White due to her ability to bestow incredibly strong defensive buffs to warriors. For Apollo, Mary White can easily max out her attack, as well as provide a guard, provisional HP, and a full resurrection, all of which immensely increase Apollo's survivability, protecting her from most reflections and counterattacks. AOG Ida and Rite are also solid options to pair with Apollo due to their versatility and ability to provide solid buffs. AOG Ida with her blessed bestowal, as well as being a tank, and Rite with her strong immortality buff. Lastly, since Apollo has a multi-attack, this would naturally synergize with Helena. In other words, due to the fact that Apollo attacks 3 times, when she's buffed by Helena, she could get a maximum of 3 extra turns at the end of the round. For some good matchups, Apollo pretty much kills squishies and most tanks without too much issue. However, she is notably good against enemies buffed by Ida's HP regeneration barrier, as Apollo's HP reduction damage can actually capitalize on the high healing Ida causes, possibly one-shotting them. On the other hand, with Apollo's several instances of direct damage, she can also reliably kill enemies that rely on low HP restraint, such as Enma, Neptune, and Wester. Claudia can also technically be one-shot by Apollo, but she will likely have an immortality buff, preventing her from dying instantly. Now onto her counters. Mercenaries that counter Apollo include, surprisingly, Lane. If Lane has high HP and also has a riposte counter active, he can reliably survive Apollo's damage and at the same time, rest her buffs from Mary White and Ida, making her uncomfortably vulnerable. And if Apollo attacks Lane without having any provisional HP, she can easily die to Lane's counterattack damage as she procs it 3 times due to her multi-attack. Another reliable counter is Ride, simply due to Apollo's direct damage and HP reduction damage being unable to pierce through her immortality buff. To be honest, immortality is generally good against Apollo as it would prevent her HP reduction damage from finishing off enemies' high HP regen. RTK Islok, Lucius, Freyla when paired with Indra, Lillian also when paired with Indra, or Velfern with enough death absorption stacks can reliably hold her off for a while. Cowley and Ymir can also hold Apollo off if they have enough HP. Sarah can also sometimes survive Apollo's damage if all her allies are alive. Benchima can also survive if she gains a provisional HP. Glacia's death prevention can also cause her to survive Apollo's damage. Wester's Black Knight could easily survive Apollo's damage. And lastly, Apollo is super squishy, so just any defense guard ignoring damage that can pierce through Mary White and Ida's defensive buffs will instantly kill her. And finally, the most important question of all, should you build Apollo? My answer is leaning on the side of no. Apollo isn't a bad mercenary, however her main flaw is relying too much on fulfilling a specific condition to be better than average, because outside her HP reduction damage, Apollo's direct damage is quite mediocre, though unfortunately, even if that condition is met, her HP reduction damage can be easily countered by immortality buffs. Furthermore, Apollo is way too expensive to build. For her to make a consistent impact, she needs to be plus 15 as well as having a high attack and penetration stat. Honestly, if you want to counter Ida's HP regeneration buff, build Kaim. His heal suppression lasts much longer, with its HP reduction damage being almost on par with Apollo. In my opinion, the only saving grace to Apollo is their incredible AoE tiles, and the ability to deal several instances of direct damage. Those two factors alone prevent her from being below average. In conclusion, Apollo is weird. Very weird. She is somehow incredibly niche, and at the same time, decently versatile. Overall, only build Apollo if you want an arena viable mercenary that counters Ida's HP regen. If that doesn't fit you, skip out on building her. Don't worry, you won't be missing out. And that's all. Make sure you check the comments if I made any changes to this guide. But other than that, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.